I'm Effie, this is What Effie Reads, and today I'm going to be doing the telephone tag. Off the top of my head, I don't know who the original creator of this tag is, but I will link their video in the description, and I was specifically tagged to take part in this by Shannon over at Head in the Books, so I will also link her video in the description. Basically, the way this tag works is that you kind of need to do like word association with pictures, and you start off with the last spoke of the person that tagged you, and then you make 9 word association, picture association, whatever you want to call it, to see what book you end up with at the end. So the final book in Shannon's video was Mina and the Undead, and I will pop that on screen there. I think that's the left of the screen. I apologise if I've got my left and my right wrong in filming. So from Mina and the Undead, I'm going to go with Cheshire Crossing by Andy Weir and Sarah Anderson. This is a graphic novel telling the story of Dorothy, Alice and Wendy after they come back from their adventures. This is kind of a portal fantasy. It deals a little bit with them coming to terms with how they're dealing with being back in the real world, but they also end up going through portals and whatnot. It's really enjoyable, and the reason that I am going from Mina and the Undead to this one is, as you can see, there's a building there. As you might gather, this gets a little bit tenuous in some of the associations. So from Cheshire Crossing, I'm going to go with Deep in Providence by Rhys M. Nielsen. I don't remember too much about this, beyond the fact that it's queer and it deals with grief. I obviously haven't read this one yet, so I don't know too much about it, but I was very, very excited to pick it up after I heard it recommended on the podcast, Miss Shelved. And the way I got from Cheshire Crossing to Deep in Providence is that there's multiple people on the cover. As I say, some of these are a little bit tenuous. From Deep in Providence, I go to Gracekeepers by Kirsty Logan, and I got from this one to this one because they both feature water. I think that's kind of the extent of it. I guess they've both got the moon on them. This is another book that I haven't read. However, I believe it's a kind of sequel to The Gloaming, which I really, really enjoyed. This will be, when I eventually read it, the third Kirsty Logan that I've read. I believe it's sapphic. I know The Gloaming was also sapphic, and I guess it falls under magical realism. From The Gloaming, we get to Death at the Plague Museum by Leslie Kelly. It's mostly colour scheme how I went from this book to this book. I'm not sure where this falls in the series, but this is part of a series where it follows a kind of, I'm not sure if they're called like a pandemic task force, but basically there's a deadly virus sweeping the city, and is how they deal with it. But I think there's also like murders and plots and schemes involved. Leslie Kelly was one of the authors that I saw at Granite Noir back in February, and I believe I actually got this signed to both Shannon and I. Yes, it's signed to, dedicated rather, to the both of us, as our plan was to read whichever one is book 1 in the series, like together, and both annotate it. From Death at the Plague Museum, I got to The Near Witch. This one again is a little bit tenuous, but basically I went for kind of like single object focus. Like you've got the test tubes as the primary focus on this one, and you've got a tree as the primary focus on this one. This is one of the V. Schwab books that I haven't read. I do have a few, but the list is growing shorter and shorter. This one, I don't know too much about, actually. What I do know about this is I believe this is intended as a kind of modern fairy tale. I think this might be V. Schwab's debut, but I'm not 100% sure, as I know that Schwab's earlier works, there were quite a few, so maybe. But I'm hoping to read this one in the month of August, so maybe I'll know more about it soon. From The Near Witch, I got to Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kammerer. The association between these is like a tree and a plant made out of letters. As I say, they're all very tenuous. I mean, this is pretty much a theme of this video. I think I've read a grand total of one of the books I feature in this video. So Letters to the Lost deals with grief. I did start it, I read like the first chapter. This was gifted to me by Shannon, and I feel really bad that I didn't get a chance to read it last month. But basically it's two people that kind of correspond across letters left on a gravestone, I think. Shannon just absolutely adores it. I think if you go back to my July TBR, Shannon has kind of like explained a bit about this book and tried to sell me on it. So if you want to find out a bit more, I recommend checking that out. But also, I think probably Shannon will have a video on her channel. Like, whenever you're watching this, Shannon, feel free to link any of your videos where you've talked about this book so people can find out more. From Letters to the Lost, we get, oh, it's got a publicity note in. With Fire in Their Blood by Kat Delacourt. This one is probably one of the less tenuous because I've gone from flowers to flowers. I'll be honest, I was gonna find a way to squeeze this one in. This is one of my highest priority books for the month of August. It comes out in September and I'm so very excited to read it. It's been billed as witchy mafia with chaotic bisexuals. It's set in an isolated Italian town, village, a very small place in Italy, and it's magical. I'm predicting romance. It's the first book in a duology and I'm just so hyped for it. From With Fire in Their Blood, we get Queen of the Conquered by Kacen Callender. This is another one of flowers. So we get from the rose to these pink flowers on the cover. I mean, at this point, do I need to tell you that I haven't read it? But I very much enjoyed Felix Ever After. So when I saw this in a charity shop, I just had to pick it up. I know this is a duology and I'm going to guess it's pretty fantasy heavy. I've heard mixed things about it, but I'm pretty excited to check it out whenever I do get a chance. And the final pairing, we go from Queen of the Conquered to Kingdom of the Wicked, and the connection between these two is a snake on the cover. And again, I don't know too much about this one. Surprise, surprise. What I do know is I think it's a romance between a devil demon called Wrath, and it's something to do with trying to investigate murder. I think this is book one in a trilogy. Yeah. So that is my full list. So I got from Mina and the Undead to Kingdom of the Cursed by Kerri Maniscalco. I apologise that my descriptions have probably been a bit lacking. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. If you want to see more of me rambling and giving terrible descriptions about books, do consider subscribing. And if you want to do this video, consider this me tagging you. And if you do, your first book will be Kingdom of the Wicked. But until next time, love you. Bye.
There's a place in my heart